I introduce ordinance number 2024-3078 by title and ask the clerk to please read the title.
An ordinance of the City of McCook, Nebraska to amend the City of McCook Code of Ordinances by adding Chapter 121 entitled Games of Skill to the section to Title 11 Business Regulations to provide that this ordinance shall be made a part of the City of McCook Code of Ordinances, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Ordinance number 2024-3078 has been introduced, read by title, and I move to approve upon its first of 3 readings.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay, and we'll have discussion.
No.
Discussion.
We're gonna discuss it first.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna discuss it.
So, this kind of goes back to the past few years. Our auditor has mentioned on numerous occasions that we need to diversify our revenue sources. And obviously, with what we've seen out of Lincoln here this past year, with some of the changes that are potentially coming down the pipe, especially with property tax, it kind of changes the way that we look at things here. Our concern is if you start capping property tax, it makes it fairly difficult for us to adjust or continue to provide the services that we currently provide without finding other revenue sources. And so one of the things that we've talked about is looking at new occupation taxes. Currently we have an occupation tax. Our most recent one was actually on hotels. I think we did that in 2018, if I remember right, Chief. But we also have other occupation taxes, telecommunication, gas, there's some other ones as well too. Looking at kind of trends and where things are going and kind of listening to what the state has been saying, I know that the state has looked at games of skill as a potential for achieving a tax shift. We're actually just on a conference call, I think, with Senator Rowan here this last week. And during the course of the conversation, you know, he had mentioned that the state Senate is kind of looking at the same thing in the legislature. They're looking at trying to go ahead and make adjustments to try to reduce the property tax requests at the state level or at the local level. And one of the things that they're proposing is implementing a sales tax on the use of these machines with those proceeds then to be split up primarily for property tax relief is what they're looking at right now. So this is a proposal. This is on first reading. You know, say yes, say no, say hey, we want you to go ahead and do some more review. But we actually looked at North Platte's ordinance to kind of get an idea of what may be out there as far as potential games of skill ordinances. We actually just kind of looked at it and utilized theirs verbatim, so what you see in front of you is very similar to what North Platte's has. I actually had a phone call with Bob Hall today. The one thing that would have changed was they had I think it was in the evenings they would go ahead and cut off the games of skill or being able to utilize a game of skill at 1 o'clock. So they had a 1 o'clock curfew at night. When I was looking at it and trying to prepare for the ordinance, we moved it back to 2 o'clock because we've got a 2 o'clock curfew on our liquor establishments. And so I just thought the two made sense. And after speaking with Bob, he had expressed some concerns about, well, what would that mean? Because his hours of operation are 24 hours. And I said, I understand that. So that's something for the council to consider. On our end, we don't know exactly how many games of skill there are in a community. I couldn't tell you exactly. I've seen them, but I don't know exactly how many there are. You know, that $500 unit, that's one of those things where that can be reviewed, adjusted, whatever. We can continue to take a look at this and see what that would mean as far as revenue. Now, this last year, revenue was very difficult. we got to the very end, and there were a lot of things that we had to basically say we're gonna do without. And every year we have that, but it's getting more and more complicated with some of the restrictions that we have. We start talking about the inflationary issues that everybody is facing. The city is no different. We've had those same kind of problems as far as trying to figure out, okay, how are we gonna make sure that we pay for the needed services that have been prioritized by the city and council members in the past. It's getting tougher and tougher every year. And so we gotta come up with some solutions here, especially if there's the possibility that we're gonna see caps on our property tax. So that's what the driving force is. We are open to whatever solutions or suggestions the council or the public has, but I'm gonna be honest when I say it is going to be complicated, I think, moving forward with the inflationary forces that we've seen. And we have a different set of rules when it comes to, you know, what we have. Everybody says run business or run government like a business will be easy to do if we didn't have the same, if we had the same rules, but we have different rules that we have to abide by. Case in point, the CIR, which mandates